Research is to see what everybody else has seen and get to think what nobody else has thought. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I, Bhargavi Singh, and I, Prathima Srivastav, welcome all the eminent speakers, guests, and participants to the second annual National Students Conference organized by Amity School of Communication, Amity University, Lucknow. The theme of this year's conference is Emerging Trends and Challenges in Media and Communication. We are proud to have received papers from India and abroad. We gladly welcome our guest for today, Dr. Pradeep Nair, Professor and Director Research, Central University of Himachal Pradesh. We are also privileged to have Professor Dr. Sanjay Mohan Johri, Director, Amity School of Communication, Lucknow, with us today. Amity School of Communication is one of the country's top journalism and mass communication schools. It provides students with both academic and practical expertise, allowing them to become dynamic communication specialists and paving their way into the massive media industry. In 2016, Amity School of Communication initiated Center for Media Studies for the development of critical understanding about media and its rendezvous with society. CMS aims to help students get a hands-on experience of collecting and documenting field data, clicking photographs, making documentaries, designing advertising campaigns, and research projects, among other activities. The first conference was held in 2021 on the theme Mediated Communication, a Beginning of New Era, and was a great success with over 190 national and international participants. The objective of this year's conference is to develop research aptitude among students and scholars in journalism, mass communication, and allied fields. The conference will give participants a national platform to present their academic research where students from various colleges have participated. The conference also aims to help students discover new ideas and create relationships in their career. The beginning of every word is done by remembering Ma Saraswati and taking her blessings. So now, let's have lighting of the lamp and Saraswati Vandana.
हम भी तो समझे, हम भी तो जाने, विद्या का हमको अधिकार दे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ।
Request to our director, Professor Dr. Sanjay Mohan Johri, to address and welcome the gathering.
Good morning, all the students, participants, and a very warm welcome to our chief guest, Professor Dr. Pradeep Nair. First of all, apologies for starting program slightly late because of some technical glitches. Dr. Pradeep Nair, a very old friend of mine from his Lucknow days when he started his academic journey. And it's a great achievement that now he has reached to this stage, that heading a journalism school with the Central University in Madhya Pradesh. Dr. Pradeep, though an expert in different areas dealing with mass communication and journalism, but he is very passionate about new media. And I believe he is heading lot many programs related to new media, digital journalism at his university. And he is one who is a great researcher. Great researcher in the sense like I know that today he is going to deliver a keynote address. And 24 hours prior to any of the event, he reads a lot, he researches a lot, and comes out with some interesting data and findings for the audience he is going to address. So students, participants, PhD scholars, please carefully listen to Dr. Pradeep when he addresses to you. He has been with Amity in the initial years, and that's a proud moment for us. Welcome to all the students as participants for this students conference and all the PhD scholars who will be presenting their research papers during the course of these 2 days of deliberations. We are into the second year in a row to organize a students conference, and this conference is part of your academic program. This is a non-teaching credit course, and we make, it's compulsory for all the PG students to pick up a topic under faculty guidance and then work on with a preliminary data and findings. Later on, you can, if you want, you can develop a full research paper by adding more data and having the analysis. We have got some students from the undergraduate level who have done their NTCC and they have added more work into that, and they will also be presenting. Basically, the idea is to make you learn the research tools and how you will progress converting into a research paper. My special thanks to Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Sunil Dhaneshwar, for giving us his unstinted support in any of the academic activities we organize. Welcome and thanks to the entire team of faculty who have been guiding the students and making this conference a success. So thank you once again, Dr. Pradeep, and we now look forward to your address. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, we would like to introduce our keynote speaker for the day. Dr. Pradeep Nair is presently working as Professor of New Media and Director Research, Central University of Himachal Pradesh, Dharamshala. His research interests focus on pedagogical approaches of media education, media governance in transitional democracies, health communication, and promotion. He is presently the senior editor in the editorial board of Center of Agriculture and Bioscience International, One Health Resources, associate editor of Connected Health and Political Communication. He is also the editor of a research section on health technologies and innovations. Dr. Nair is currently in the editorial board of Journal of Education Technology, Development and Exchange, published by the University of Southern Mississippi, United States, and has served 2 consecutive terms in the editorial board of the journals Asia Pacific Media Educator, to name a few. He has been awarded Top Peer Reviewer in Social Sciences by Web of Science and Clarivate Analytics in 2019. Dr. Nair also supervises doctoral students undertaking research on participatory democracy and governance in developing economies, media governance processes, digital disinformation, and health communication and promotion. Dr. Pradeep Nair, we cordially welcome you. We would like to ask the technical team to connect to Dr. Nair.
Over to you, Pradeep sir.
Over to you, Pradeep sir.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. So my sincere gratitude to Professor Jory for for giving me this wonderful opportunity to interact with all of you. I always have an emotional attachment with Amity since I worked there, and I know the institute very well. And that's why I never lose a single opportunity to work with Amity. So thanks a lot for believing in me. So last year, I know that it was quite successful. It was a quite successful event, and this year also, I hope that this is going to, create a history in itself. So can a technical team give me, the sharing? Can I share?
Yes, sir, you can share. The rights
Yeah.
is already given.
Great, great. Just one. My screen is visible?
Yes, it is, sir.
Yeah. So today, the topic of discussion is emerging trends and challenges in media and communication. And it's quite a broad topic. And that's why I decided that I am going to be very specific. And especially, I will try to break this whole concept in terms of,
Sorry to interrupt, sir.
platforms.
Sorry to interrupt, sir. Your screen is not visible now.
One. Just one.
Can you just reshare?
Yeah, I'm trying to do it. Is it now visible?
No, sir. No, sir. It's not visible.
Just one. Let me do. If technical issues are always there.
Yes, sir. It is visible, sir.
Yeah. So I'm going to be specific, and I will try to keep it in terms of digital platforms, how the digital platforms and their expansion has created, a challenge for media and communication studies. Today, if you look at the media landscape or the media ecosystem, you may find that the digital platforms, they have become central to the production, distribution, and monetization of media content. And this has really complicated, the question of media concentration. And not
I'm
only
again
it
sorry to interrupt. I'm again sorry to interrupt, sir. Your screen is again not visible to us.
Okay, just one. Can I go without sharing? Just give me one more time. Let me try. Otherwise, I will go without.
Sir, I think every time you are doing this full screen thing, it's disappearing. Don't go with this full screen now.
Yes. Now it is visible.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. So now the screen is visible, huh?
It is, sir. It is.
Yeah.
Sir, don't make it full screen.
No. I'm not going to make it full screen.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
So this digital platforms and their expansion, they had complicated, the question of media concentration, and at the same time, it has started, integrating highly diverse businesses. If you look at the businesses, these businesses from the initial, stage of publication and distribution have shifted now to hosting and curating media content, and at the same time, all the digital platforms, they are also functioning as advertising networks and data intermediaries. So, and this has created another challenge for the regulation of media content because of vast amount of heterogeneous materials. Otherwise, if you 10 years back, most of the content, they were homogeneous, like a newspaper. If you look at a magazine, the magazines and newspapers, they had a set of specific contents. But now this online platforms and their diversity, it has created a vast amount of heterogeneous materials, and this heterogeneous material is shared by a broad range of users. And broad range of users, you can't imagine, there are million and million of users, and this has made it extremely difficult to maintain oversight. And this growing dominance of platform corporations over the cultural domain are making it vital, no doubt, but at the same time difficult to develop and sustain public service media. So now there is no public service media. All the media, they are big, they are corporations, and they are media, they are conglomerates. So if you look at the search engines or social media, all the individual news items, all of them, they are on sharing platforms. And that is why I'm going to refer a very interesting study. Whenever you get time, kindly go through it. Nicholas Carr in 2008 came with a very interesting observation, which he termed the great unbundling. And this great unbundling is all about the breakdown of the audience, content, advertising configuration. And in this study, he particularly tried to explore how the control over, the news content, recommending it, distributing it, and monetizing it has now shifted from news organizations to platforms. And this is something quite serious. Earlier, when it was in control of the news organizations, these news organizations, they were very particular. Suppose even if the newspaper know that this news is important, but at the same time, this news is going to disturb the peace of the society, mostly they will not publish it. Or most of the time, they try to keep a check and recheck on the content if the content is going to disturb. But now that concern or that kind of, rather we can say there. And all these peer-to-peer technologies, they have enabled the users to find, share, and consume content online. to a great extent. So all 24 hours, people, they're sharing content. And this has affected the autonomy and the traditional business model of media houses. Because now there is no paid subscription, most of the content is free of cost, and this content is shared to, among millions of users. So this is something which has created a serious to the conventional, media businesses and the revenue models. And because of this, there are certain new industrial formations. So industry, now if you look at the media industry, for dependency, which was earlier on newspapers, which were earlier on television and radio, now the dependency has shifted. And now the dependency is more on platforms like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or Twitch. And they have a great reach and access to audience, and they are generating, a major pie of the ad revenue. So this the way, the media content, they getting into the control of these platforms, it is posing a crucial challenge for research and governance of contemporary media industries. And at the same time, simultaneously, when this process was going, there is simultaneously technological, economic, and socio-political changes are also going on. So this is a quite, a high time. All these changes, they are, at the same time. And that's why now a lot of media production and distribution practices, now they are reorganized. Or every day, the platforms, they are trying to reorganize it. And fortunately, these platforms do not operate in isolation. Otherwise, if you look at the conventional media platforms, most of the conventional media platforms, they operated in isolation. But here, these platforms, they are not operating in isolation. They are entangled with each other in a larger corporate ecosystem. And this larger corporate ecosystem is something which is very serious to look into, especially for media scholars. And within this ecosystem, the conditions of content and the service distribution and the monetization, that changes continuously. It is not, a static process. It is quite a dynamic process, and these changes are happening almost every day. So it is all about algorithmic, sorting, graphical user, and application programming interfaces. This is something which is all about the new media ecosystem. So this new media is something which is more on the algorithmic sorting, how every day the media content are sorted with the help of algorithms, graphical user, and a lot of application programming interfaces. They are deciding the way the media content is produced and distributed. Now let's see what are the concerns. Now there are some very, serious concern. So maybe many of you were aware that YouTube and Google at one time, they were into a lot of controversy. What was the controversy actually? The controversy was that a lot of advertisement and promotional content were paired with controversial videos. Why they did it? Because at one time they saw that the revenue model is not boosting the way it was supposed. So what they did, they, without informing the advertiser, they have advertising and promotional content with some controversial videos, and the conditions under which the contents are produced, distributed, and monetized, they have shifted. There was a hue cry, and a lot of, media organizations and a lot of, media scholars, they have put a serious, question on the way these platforms, they operate. And this created a challenge for the traditional understanding of media concentration. And suddenly, the media scholars across the world and the media experts, they started, realizing that now it is a time to examine the techno-economic configuration of media ecosystem in which the platforms are embedded. So this is something which was quite new for a lot of us. And this concept of the way the platforms are expanding, it forced us to consider this media concentration in terms of corporate ecosystem. Now, how it is creating a challenge for media studies? It is no doubt it is creating a challenge for media industries because the industries has to deal with them. But how the media studies are going to deal with them? For the media studies, the challenge is how this media is shaped within the corporate platform ecosystem, and what economic, political, and creative implications are there for the media producers, and how much our journalism schools, that is where the real challenge is, how much the journalism schools, they are aware of these changes which are taking place in industry. So this platformization has complicates the regulation of media content. So the way the platforms they are operating, the way the platforms are expanding themselves, the way the platforms are creating an ecosystem, this is complicating, the regulation of media content. Many of us, we were aware that last 2 years, there was a lot of debate on the kind of content which were there on OTT platforms. And then the government of India decided to come up with new, regulatory policies related to OTT platforms. Till the policies, they are not on public domain, but the government is seriously taking it. So a vast amount of this fundamentally heterogeneous material, that is there. And this heterogeneous, get the range. Now personal updates are also there. And these personal updates are also at par with news. So it is not only the news content, it is everything from personal updates to news, from games to fashion photography, everything is on sharing. And this content is shared by a broad range of users. And if you look at the users, so mass media is there, societal organizations are there, institutions are there, a variety of companies are there, and then billions of end users are there. So earlier, the newspaper or the television channel or the radio, they have an idea of their audience. Many of you may be aware that All India Radio, had some 40 years, they had a specific, audience research unit. The same is with Doordarshan. Doordarshan also had an audience research unit where most of the time they try to get an idea about their audience. But now it is not possible because this range of audience is quite wide. And at the same time, the scale and variety of content and the users, it makes it extremely difficult for the platform corporations to maintain an oversight. And that is a serious challenge. That is a serious challenge. So now fixing the content moderation is particularly difficult because you don't know who is producing, or the producers are large and huge in number. Now, how the responsibility for platform communication should be distributed among different stakeholders. This is something where the industries are trying to work out until there is no solution. Because everyone can share content through a platform. Many of us, we believe that this is an absolute freedom because this was the kind of freedom which, as an audience, we never enjoyed. Because now anytime you can be a producer, you can, immediately you can generate a content and throw it on social media platforms. But that also creates a challenge because who is going to take the responsibility of that? Model is required to take care of it. This is a serious concern. And at the same time, if you look at the operations and development of these platform architectures and moderation practices, they are not democratically assessed. So there is also, a demand from a lot of media organizations and, ethical experts that there should be, a citizen and public authorities, they should have a control over this. And another way is, it's an old concept, but a new understanding. So in 1970s also, there was a lot of effort to bring alternative media platforms. The same is here. There is also, a suggestion coming from a lot of experts that let us develop and sustain public service media and alternative non-commercial platforms. So a lot of, non-commercial blogs, a lot of non-commercial news outlets, they are there. But the problem is that basic infrastructure of this platform corporation, they are controlled by big organizations. So if you look at the search engines, if you look at social networks, if you look at the sharing services or the messaging applications or the operating systems, all of them, they are controlled. They are controlled and owned by big media organizations. So here, a lot of interdisciplinary research is needed to explore the possibilities of online infrastructure based on key public values. And that is where, the role of media scholars starts, because industry will look into it, and industry is seriously looking into it. A lot of industrial experts are working on it, how to democratize this platform operation. But at the same time, the most, interesting concern is that how the media syllabus are going to look into it. Unfortunately, I checked a lot of syllabus of both, the private universities and the public universities. Most of the university syllabus, the kind of ecosystem, what we are talking about, this ecosystem unfortunately don't exist now. We are talking about a sophisticated newsroom of a legacy newspaper. Suppose Times of India or Statesman or Asian Age or Telegraph. But now that sophisticated newsroom is not existing. We are talking about, a television channel or a satellite channel, a public channel, which is accountable to public and which is regulated by a regulatory body. That is also not happening. And unfortunately, the syllabus and media schools, they are not looking into it. That's why I believe that a conference like this, and that is, a request to Professor Johari also, that conference and more workshops like this should be there, so that the young scholar, they must be aware of that what is going on. So whenever, as an audience, casually we share materials on WhatsApp or Facebook or on any other platform. But have we ever thought about, the seriousness of that sharing? How over a period of time, this sharing has creating a lot of, regulatory problem for the media industries and for the government. In recent times, you look at yesterday, day before yesterday, although I am not getting into a political comment, but most of the time, lot of small issues, they are turning into, a more controversial event only because of the social media. So lot of hated messages, lot of hate speech, lot of controversy, lot of extremist messages, all they are sharing like anything, and no control. That is actually the serious problem of this platform media business. So it is if you look at the research, the research which was conducted by universities in India and abroad, most of the researchers which were conducted in 1970s and 80s, they were mostly focused on television. The way television is affecting the society, the way television is affecting, our educational life, the way television is, creating perception. A lot of studies are there. But if you compare that amount of study with the amount of study which is now, on social media, you will find a huge gap. So, as a media school, it's an appropriate time for us to promote and encourage, studies getting into these challenges. So I hope that in this seminar, I have no idea that what kind of papers have been submitted, but I hope that lot of, small papers, lot of research papers, addressing these contemporary issues, if we can bring it in the form of a publication, or if Amity School of Communication can approach, a journal to bring out a special issue on it, it may be, of great help, because you people have a lot of ideas. You people are the users of social media. You are the one who are creating content 24/7. So you are also the content creator, you are also the user, and you are also the distributors. All of you are aware of, the kind of issues, which are there. So if you can come up with articles, if you can come up with commentaries, and if you can come up with small, peer reviews, that will take this whole discourse further. So now I request Professor Johari to open the floor, and if we have questions, I would love to address them. So can we open the floor now? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So can we open the floor now for questions and
So
answers?
my question is, what are the challenges that we, am I audible?
Yeah, quite audible.
So my question is, what are the challenges that we face in new media?
See, the first challenge is,
Particularly in case of censorship.
yeah, no censorship. Rather, we can use a more sophisticated term, like we need some kind of regulatory framework, because, censorship is never taken in a good sense. So rather than, saying censorship, it is better if we can try to come up with a regulatory framework, because some kind of regulation is required. Some kind of regulation is required. But unfortunately, whether it is the government of developing countries or whether it is the government of developed countries, both of them, they are struggling, because this is a huge business, and the kind of political economy which is involved, it is not allowing the government to take, a kind of control over the content which is there on social media.
Am I audible?
Yeah, audible, quite audible, please.
Yeah. Sir, I just want to understand that when we talk about censorship, and especially in case of OTT, do we not feel that the originality and the authenticity of OTT lies in being free and not censored? Because the kind of content they are showing, it is, if it gets censored, then it might lose its originality or authenticity. I just want your opinion on that.
No, see, it's a quite a debatable, thing, because, originality and freedom, it all depends that how much that freedom is going to be there in society. If my freedom is creating disturbance, then obviously there should be a check on it. If you look at social media in last 3-4 years, I hope that lot of hate content is there. Lot of hate content is there. Now, if we are not going to look into this hate content, I'm not talking to censor it fully, but at least some kind of check is required, because on the name of freedom, you can't allow anyone to disturb others' life. I have in my entire, from last so many years, regularly media content, I have never seen this much disturbance the way it happened in last 1-2 years.
So my question is regarding hate speech. Could you please elaborate on the same a bit?
Yeah, please tell. What?
Speak a little louder.
So my question is on hate speech. Could you please elaborate on it a bit?
See, hate speech means the speech which creates, some kind of complications in our routine life. Blaming a community or blaming a religion or, blaming the rituals, anything, hate speeches, that is a wide range. That is a wide range. And there is not a single definition of it. But if anything which disturbs, which harmony, which disturbs the peace, and which disturbs the coexistence, that should be, should have a check. See, I'm just giving one, small example, and this, several times, I discussed this with my students. The very first day when I entered in my university, and I got admission in BSc first year in geology honors. And the very first day, my professor, he started with a quote saying that man learned how to fly high in the sky. Okay. Man learned how to dive deep into the sea. Man learned how to climb the mountain. Man also learned how to tame the tiger, but he never learned how to live on the land. Because all other four, flying high in the sky, or diving deep into the sea, or climbing a mountain, or taming a tiger, all is a skill-based thing. You can learn those skills. But to live on land, you need certain things. One is mutual respect, the laws of coexistence, living together, listening to each other. And that is something which has now, got, you can say it is disturbed like anything. Yeah. Am I audible?
Good morning, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I have a question that on OTT platform, right now the censorship are there. And so what's your view on the rules and regulation on the censorship of OTT platform?
No, see, right now there is no censorship on OTT platforms. We are talking about some regulatory framework, but till date, no comprehensive regulatory framework related to OTT platforms. We are not, in favor of controlling the things. We are not saying that put an absolute censorship. No, but some kind of check and balance should be there. And this check and balance is not a new thing. Maybe if you can ask Professor, tell that all the legacy newspapers which were there from last 100-150 years, they were very particular about the content what they are publishing. So, and there is no written code of conduct. This is something which was in practice. There is some ethical standards, there are some ethical concerns which, because media means public. So any information which is on media is a public information, not a private information. So whenever information is public, some kind of check should always be required.
Professor, Amity School of Communication, to come and release the abstract book and give vote of thanks.
Technical team, please start the video of abstract book.
Thank you. Honorable keynote speaker, Professor Dr. Pradeep Nair, Dean School of Journalism, Mass Communication and New Media, Central University of Himachal Pradesh, Dharamshala, respected Head of Institution, Professor Dr. Sanjay Mohanjori, sir, our most valued invited guest, faculty, staff member, dear students, ladies and gentlemen. It's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. I, Mohammad Faisal, on behalf of Amity School of Communication and on my own behalf, extend a very sincere vote of thanks to all gracing the inaugural ceremony of the second annual Students' Conference. A big thank you to Professor Dr. Pradeep Nair, sir, for taking out time from his busy schedule and sharing his thought with us on new media, challenges, opportunity, and other current issues. I, on behalf of our organizing committee, convey my deep regards and heartily thank to our Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Sunil Dhaneshwar, sir, for supporting us in all possible manners to organize this conference. I wish to thank a person who is not only a great motivation to all of us, but a visionary and a person who gave us the belief to bring together this ceremony. He is none other than our own Professor, Dr. Sanjay Mohanjori, sir, who made ceaseless effort to make this event a success. We are thankful to him for his huge contribution. I would also like to thank all the participants, students from India and abroad, who are going to present their research papers in upcoming technical sessions. An event like this cannot happen overnight. The wheels start rolling weeks ago. It requires planning and a bird's eye for details. We have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of very motivated and dedicated colleagues and students of ESCO who know their jobs and are result-oriented, especially Conference Secretary Dr. Ina Mirza and Mr. Mohit Sharma. I cannot thank everyone enough for their involvement and the willingness that they have expressed to take completion of tasks beyond their comfort zones. As no program becomes successful with a single person, so I extend my heartfelt thanks to our staff members for their support, Procurement and Inventory Management Department, Administration Department, website support at AKCDS, Accounts Department, Digital Team at the Office of the Honorable C6 Sir, IT Lucknow and IT Noida, and iMagic Communication. Thank you everyone for making this event worth for your graceful presence. Now I request all participants to move to ESCO floor for upcoming technical sessions.